Hello and welcome to MacFormat's weekly Apple Extravaganza. I'm Chris Finn.
I'm Matt Bolton.
And on this episode we talk about Rumours.
A new way to navigate.
And we give you our first hands-on impression of OS X 10.10 Yosemite. Let's start though with news in the world of Apple. It's easy to get very, very sick of the rumour mill in this industry because so often hot passage for rumours in this industry is just somebody who really, really, really wants Apple to do something and then they write a fevered blog post about it.
Yes.
And this becomes rumour.
Yes. Are you thinking of, what's his name in the Apple TV?
Yes, exactly. The analyst whose name is now on your screen because we can't remember
I can't remember it. But
Gene Munster?
Gene Munster, yeah.
It is Gene Munster.
Sorry, it's not going on your screen.
No.
At every earnings call, it's, where's the TV? And the response is, what TV?
Yeah. So yeah, that basically happens a lot. There's a couple of rumours. Basically, if a rumour doesn't have a source attached to it of any credibility, ignore it, is the rule. If the Wall Street Journal writes it and they're quoting some good people, fine. But if it's just on some random website, possibly be a little more circumspect. However, there's two floating around just now that I thought we'd have a bit of a chat about. And that is the 12-inch Retina MacBook Pro
MacBook
Air,
MacBook
something, and the 4K iMac.
Yep.
Let's talk 4K iMac first, because that's the one that I think is pretty much a given at some point, and I think it'll happen in 2014.
Yes, you've got things that have come together to make it possible. You've got 4K panels that can, you've got 4K displays that are on sale for about £500.
At about 28 inches.
At about 28 inches, so the panels are cheaper than £500, presumably. All these companies don't usually operate at a loss, not for monitors anyway. And we've got perfectly good hardware that you can fit into a massive iMac to run it in terms of processor and graphics card, especially with NVIDIA's latest round of graphics cards, which can include ones that are super low power and heat.
Which isn't hugely important in a desktop Mac, but still, if you're talking about the thermal envelope inside one of those thin things, is a concern.
We say it isn't hugely important, but because it's thin things, they use laptop parts that are lower power and lower heat, so they obviously are important ultimately.
Yeah, and there was a lot of people talking about the fact that these things were going to be delayed, in as much as they were ever real, in order to be delayed because of delays to Intel's roadmap. But that's probably not a good way to think about it.
There's something about it that kind of rings true for me. Like Apple had been planning in particular on Intel's next set of chips and their lower power requirements, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was true, but it's not necessary as far as I can figure.
Because you don't have to wait for Intel's next high performance integrated graphics GPU CPU chipset. What you can do is just put in an Intel CPU and an NVIDIA GPU as a discrete thing.
Exactly, which at 4K is probably what you'd want to do. You run the Retina screen on the lower end MacBook Pros from Intel integrated graphics, and that's
acceptably
fine. But that's not a 4K screen. It's a lot more pixels to get it all the way up to 3840 wide.
But we've talked about this, and you and I both think the same thing, which is that if Apple does introduce a 4K iMac, as we suspect it might toward, put it this way, we would be surprised to see it launch before the end of 2014. But we expect them only to pretty much to launch one model at the very top end, and for it to be 2,300, 2,400 quid.
That sort of, I had 2,200 in mind, but that it might be a bit less than that. It might be more like 2,000, because the highest iMac is now 1,600, I think. So that's quite a big jump.
It could be the one. It could even squeeze in as 199. That would be a bargain. But so we think that's going to happen. When it comes to the 12-inch MacBook, people are wondering: is this a Pro or an Air? Or is it something else entirely? I'd be inclined to suspect that something major would happen if they introduce a 12-inch laptop, because that feels very un-Apple to have 11-inch, 12-inch, 13-inch and 15-inch laptops in its range. They don't usually be so granular with their range. I suspect something will drop out. Yeah,
quite possibly. Or maybe they would all be in there for a little while they retire some models later or something. That seems more likely to me to be delayed by the fact that Intel's next chips are delayed, because the big advantage of Intel's next generation of chips is lower power use and more power potentially in the graphics chip.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to fit a Retina display into a
Very
MacBook
thin.
Air, I don't know what happened there. I do declare into a MacBook Air size chassis, then you need as low power as possible to produce as low heat as possible,
and to require less battery power, so you get good battery life from. One little thing, I a while ago reviewed the Chromebook Pixel, which is Chromebook's high-end £1,000 ridiculous sort of research project made flesh, which is a beautiful machine, but nobody should ever buy one, although we know someone who did. Ian Bettridge has one, but they're amazing machines. But one of the things I loved about it was a 3:2 aspect ratio screen.
Yes.
And it actually worked really well, because it's quite a tall screen, and they talked about it being designed for the web, the idea being that, you don't scroll as much because the screen's actually quite tall. And that aspect ratio was actually lovely to use.
Oh, it was the original iPhone's aspect ratio, and the Microsoft Surface Pro 3 is using it. And we speculated, we generated some unfounded rumours of our own about whether the iPad Pro could use it, because it makes a lot of sense for a 4K class tablet.
The maths work out quite well.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all the rumours we're going to invent for now. Let's move on to the wider world of tech. There's going to be a revolution in navigation, Chris.
I'm excited.
And it's going to come from a company called Lechal or Lechal. It's spelled Lechal.
Okay.
I have no idea how to pronounce it.
Okay.
I watched a video, it didn't tell you.
Right. Was that a video about the company, or did you just watch a random video and hope to?
I was just,
some sort of entropy would.
I was just watching some people play Call of Duty, and they didn't mention this company. No, it's they are going to make Haptic shoes.
It's actually perfectly sensible as an idea. It just sounds preposterous.
Also, haptic insoles.
Right.
For regular shoes.
Yes. So what is haptic, Matthew?
It is vibration in this case. It is feedback through the method of weird buzzing in your feet. Again, in this case, it could be weird buzzing anywhere. It doesn't have to be specific. It's the idea is that they're Bluetooth low energy, and they connect to your phone. And when you need to turn a corner, the correct direction will buzz on your feet, and you will know where to go.
Is there any word left in the English language to which you could prepend the word Bluetooth and come up with something that's not preposterous?
I don't. The problem is, I was just trying to come up with some, and they all sound really good. I was like, Bluetooth Eagle. That would be fantastic.
Why wouldn't
That's
you
not
want
preposterous.
a BLE? The range might be problematic with an Eagle, but
that's true.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff. I read about it. I went, that's mad but interesting. Okay, especially they show runners using it who don't want to sort of break their pace to look at a map to know the route they're doing, and cyclists.
I'd have to buzz really hard though for a runner. If you're like pounding the pavement.
I don't know. You'd have sort of tender feet. Maybe they'd be very, very sensitive to random buzzing from your shoes. And they show people kind of doing not dirt biking in like mountain biking,
right.
But just sort of around a park or something, or like a country park, not like just where kids are playing.
Yeah.
So again, if you're kind of bobbing around, if you don't have one of those quite expensive dedicated cycling GPSs, then again it just sort of gently steers you. But it was really vague, like what does it work with? Don't know, website didn't say as far as I could see, so I don't know if it just works with Apple Maps or if it will work with Google Maps, or Garmin and TomTom are obvious candidates because they do a lot of sports stuff.
One assumes it would have to basically it couldn't hook into the standalone apps, but instead it would have its own app that ingested the tiles and mapping system from, say, Apple Maps, which you can do through the API. Yeah,
could do, or it could be. I mean, they could release stuff for someone like TomTom to integrate into their app, conceivably.
It occurs to me as well. It's one of those things that the more you think about it, the sensibler it gets, but the more you realise you're sounding like a raving loon. But it occurred to me that it would be good for women walking home after a night out. We don't want to look vulnerable taking phones out to look at maps, that kind of thing. Similarly for tourists, if you're standing at an intersection with a map, you're a big target, whereas this way you can be a little bit cooler about getting your directions, so you're less obviously vulnerable.
But one of the things that kind of gets me, that it's really vague about the exact implementation of the buzzing.
Right.
Does it buzz when you're at the turning? If you're on a bike going quite fast, that's probably too late. Do you get build-ups like you would in a sat-nav? It doesn't really
almost
say.
Almost like beep, 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 sort of parking.
That would be that sounds annoying, but conceivably, maybe it's like a buzz when you're 10 meters away and a double buzz when you're 1 meter away. But
we could design this thing.
We've already fixed it. What's the problem? But the other thing is, I don't think it has any way of offering granular suggestions if there is more than one left turning.
Yes,
that's an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not designed to be a road.
So both feet could buzz if you're going the wrong way.
Yeah, you just walk like, what is going on? This is so. It's not designed to accommodate roundabouts because it's not a road thing. But I presume not. But still, even just walking, when you get to 7 Dials in Covent Garden, any left turn is one. I don't know which of the many lefts this is supposed to be.
Yeah.
So it seems slightly mad, but it's obviously useful. It obviously has a use.
Yeah.
Whether many people will.
And the insoles thing's a good way of doing it, because nobody sensible is going to buy a new pair of shoes just to do this. But if you,
I guess you might consider it when you are buying a new pair of shoes.
Conceivably, if they've partnered with something like Nike, so that they're putting it into high-end shoes for runners, something like that.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Maybe.
Well, that's a mad idea. Let's look at an idea that is at fruition. So it's 10.10 Yosemite. So the next version of OS 10, 10.10 Yosemite, is out. In fact, it's out in beta.
Yes.
Public beta. But you've been using it for a little while.
Yes, I have. I have a version that's, I think, is slightly before the public beta, although the public beta has only just come out as we record this.
Yeah.
So I haven't been able to check. My version was provided by Apple for sort of press evaluation.
Yeah.
So I think is possibly slightly different to the public beta, and I know is
slightly
a version behind the developer beta.
Yeah.
So I don't know if everyone is using exactly the same version I have.
Yeah.
And
one thing we haven't been able to test is basically all the good stuff.
Yes, because iOS 8 isn't in public beta. That's in lockdown. If you have it, you have signed an agreement that says you won't talk about it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like.
And unlike some other people, we respect those
yes
legal requirements.
We do.
Much to our chagrin.
But
so handoff
continuity, making phone calls and receiving texts and instant hotspot.
Yeah.
And this isn't iOS 8, although it is a bit. iCloud Drive.
Yeah.
We also haven't been able to use.
But we have it here, and it does look lovely. I mean, the dark mode that you've got enabled here is it blends nicely in with the top of the MacBook Pro. Although it's a slightly daft thing because
so the slightly silly thing with dark mode, the idea is that it's late at night, you're using your laptop in bed and you don't want it to put out as much light. There's a brightness option, but still Yosemite is very, very bright and white for the most part. So they put this dark mode in so that you could make it so it's putting out less light, and it's not lighting up the room as much, and it's kind of on your eyes. But this is the light mode. If I bring up maybe some apps and stuff, so you can see what a typical light mode screen in Yosemite looks like.
Yep.
And then if I switch to dark,
not much changes.
The only thing that changes is the menu bar and its menus, granted.
Yeah.
Is the menu bar and the dock. And
so it's a visual thing more than anything else. It's not really an accessibility or a kindness to your eyes thing.
Yeah, it makes so little difference. I wonder if there's an API that isn't being expanded to properly. I actually prefer the dark mode dock. I'm hoping there'll be a little terminal command to make that permanent, but maybe the white menu bar.
You found some slight inconsistencies with how Apple's applying its transparency.
Yes, it's the new hot transparency thing is in a few. It's not hot; it's regular temperature. This room is really cold.
This room is quite cold.
So here in the Maps app,
you can see if you move that up at the top, you can see there's green coming in behind that.
Exactly. So you can
bar.
possibly see it here. So there's the new title bars and the transparencies, and the inconsistency that I've been kind of wondering over is linked to both, because Apple has compressed the title bar so that now all the buttons and entry fields in Maps and Safari, say, are right up in there. But in other apps, like Mail, they're not. They're down below the title bar, as they always have been, and a few other ones. And Mail, for example, doesn't have a transparent menu bar, but this in Safari does. So it's a bit kind of half and half. And then you've got the other times that transparency is used. For example, in Messages, you've got your message pane on the left, and your conversations pane on the left, and then the actual messages from that conversation on the right. The conversation is solid, it's not see-through. The conversation choice pane is, but that see-throughness goes all the way up through the title bar. So,
but then that's not true in Mail.
But then that's not true in Mail, where you've got a similar two-pane thing of your emails on the left and their content on the right. They're both solid. You only get some transparency if you open the mailboxes list, but that doesn't go all the way through to the title bar. It's just in its little window at the bottom.
Although, in fairness, this is beta.
And
it's possible. It's not a massive change visually, but it's a massive change technically in how these things are put together, how these things are structured.
And you've also got pop-up windows that are transparent almost always, although there's a funny thing where in Mail
that has no close button.
I don't know how to close. I can sort of close it by doing that,
but it might just be that it's going to take Apple a long time to roll this new UI cleanly throughout even its own apps.
Yeah, it's not just like the UI just magically appears and is done. It's still in beta. It's not just about fixing bugs. It's about saying, how do we apply these rules? One
thing that's worth saying, though, is that even though this is beta, you find it to be really quite stable. Now, this doesn't mean to say that you should install it. As you in fact, we had a guy write into us who'd installed it on his main work Mac, and it had made things go wrong. And we were polite to him. We were understanding. We didn't openly ridicule him, but at the same time, that was a daft thing to have done.
Yes.
To put it on especially something you make money from.
Yeah. So I used this for writing an article about Yosemite for Tech Radar, which is our cohorts, our partners in crime, and it was fine. Like, I used it for working on,
Used it in anger.
which was a suicidal thing to do, but it felt like the right thing to do as far as checking its stability.
To immerse yourself in it.
Yeah, exactly. And it was fine. Yeah, I've found no, like, I have found bugs, but I found nothing that's been that's held me up more than a few seconds.
But that's why,
which helps that I'm on the fastest MacBook Pro.
It's a very high-end MacBook Pro Apple has given us. That's why in the current issue of MacFormat that's out now, we've done a guide to installing Yosemite well. So we talk about installing another partition, installing it on a new drive, maybe even using a separate Mac.
Yeah.
Take you through that process, because that's what you shouldn't be using this for mission-critical work at all. Although one nice thing is that you can use this all the way through, can't you?
Yes, the public beta will be updated, as far as we know, all the way through to release.
Yeah.
So you'll always have the latest, more stable version.
And once the release version is out, you'll be switched to the release version, which is nice.
Yeah, exactly. The time's up, but let's quickly go through two features. We haven't talked much about features. You've got in Mail, you've got this new annotation feature, which if I bring up now, so I've literally just pulled this screenshot into Mail and clicked that I want to do markup, and I want to point an arrow at the calendar, so I draw an arrow, and there we go.
And that was quite a crappy arrow you drew, but it.
Well, I was quite pleased with it, considering it was on a trackpad, but thanks, Chris. And I add text, which you probably can't see, but this is text. And it all just goes straight on, and then I click done when I'm done. You can also sign... Ooh, did I crash it out there?
No, just go back into it. You just clicked away from it.
Did I? Here we go. So there's the ability to sign things by signing your name on the trackpad.
All right.
And I had to try it out. I thought it would be terrible, but it is surprisingly good.
That's not bad.
I've actually got quite good control.
Yeah.
I'm just doing a squiggle. But
that's good. You're trying to obfuscate your signature at this point.
Yes. That's not my real signature. Oh, how do I stop?
It said clicking D when done.
But
so that's quite nice.
Yeah, that's actually it. Like, just with my finger, I could sign not quite right, but close. Yeah. The other best feature is
it's how slow it takes to quit Mail.
That's a hot new feature. No,
Do you have to click done?
If I do that and then mail still is bugs. More bugs. Funnily enough, I found more bugs with us doing this video.
That's always the way in your live demo.
Anyway, the other thing I want to talk about is Spotlight, which is really cool now. So there's all sorts of information it brings up straight away. This when we were talking about what we're going to talk about, I brought this up. So Roman baths, which are here in our local bath. Here's a map to them. Here is a Wikipedia entry.
I'm just checking. It's also got, if you watch Apple demos, their Macs are very carefully prepared for demos. So there's just lots of nice innocuous emails from Jane inviting Bob out for a summer picnic. I'm just making sure that we haven't got any of your texts or emails coming up that are
it's always
incriminating.
I'll have a look in editing, and they'll just be everything blurred. They've added another few...
calculations are nice as well, aren't they? They do conversions.
Conversions are the really good thing. So if I just type 28C, I don't even need to finish typing to get it to convert. It kind of says, well, that's 28 Celsius. You probably want to know what it is in Fahrenheit.
Oh, in fact,
I've got search results as well. But
you showed me as well, if I do like 56 ounces, it gives me the most likely conversion I want to do, but it gives me the rest of them as well.
Yeah, so you don't just have kilograms, you have your pounds.
But it also, it's quite clever to throw up the hierarchy, the one that you probably want.
Yes, exactly. It's
quite smart.
It's this extension. One of the things I've been saying, there's quite a few things in here that feel like they are designed to be the desktop version of Siri. You could just have Siri and you speak and the Mac responds, and maybe one day we will. But the point has always been the right interface for the right device. So Siri presents the information it thinks you will want if you ask it a certain question or give it some information. And Spotlight is the same. It's just, in this case, I press 2 buttons to bring it up, 2 keys, and in Siri I use my voice. Basically.
Yeah. Well, that's really nice. Well, look, if you've got access to the public beta of Yosemite, if Apple has deemed you worthy, then let us know your experience in the comments box below. Let us know what you are enjoying, what you're finding, and what stuff is annoying you, in fact. And also let us know what you think of the other stuff we talked about earlier in the show as well.
Don't forget that you can subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/MacFormatUK. You can watch any of the previous episodes of the Extravaganza, and you can get a free trial of the Interactive Information Packed MacFormat iPad edition at macformat.com/iPad.
That's it for this week. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
When I was waiting in the cinema foyer once, there was a gaggle of French school kids coming over to an exchange, and it was when the iPhone 3G had just come out, and I was on it, and the kids came over and said, c'est ça le 3G, ouais? And I was like, ouais, c'est le 3G. Ah, c'est super, c'est formidable.
iPhone 3G.
C'est super cool, etc.